たり可愛すぎじゃない？超わかる。とーたーい。
When you have such a strong episode number 1 and an episode that really makes you take notice of an anime, the worry that I think all of us have is, what's episode 2 going to be like? Now, we all know episode 1 is the studio's best foot forward, as it should be, because that's what needs to grab the attention of a viewer. But episode 2 is just as important, because you can't deflate your viewers if episode 2 isn't a good follow-up to episode 1. Now, episode 2s can be plot building, world building, character building, and they can even be transitional episodes to kind of take us into that next theme that the anime is about to introduce us to. But regardless, whatever one of those 4 things it's doing, it needs to make sure that it's doing it well. It doesn't need to have a bunch of sakuga, it doesn't need to have a whole studio budget. It could just be very good storytelling with decent art. But when it came to episode 2 of I Gotta Cheat Go Another World, like, wow, this studio is firing on all freaking cylinders. Like, this episode freaking blew me away. And if you guys didn't know, this is the same studio. This is Studio Milipensi, which produced one of my favorite animes of all time, which is So I'm a Spider, So What? Thankfully, we have yet to see any CGI. Thank you for no CGI. But it's produced a lot of different anime, but none that have ever been really notable to me. I think the 2 main ones that you could probably be really notable to Studio Milipensi, or I'm probably butchering the way you say their name, so you guys let me know in the comments, but they've produced Copcraft, which I thought was super mid. I thought it was okay. And they produced the Berserk anime that came out, I don't know, a few years ago that wasn't very good either. Again, those are just my personal feels. Like, people could say that they're awesome, but then they produce, which I think is almost like it's a masterpiece in my book, but I know it's critically bad. But So I'm a Spider, So I love the anime so much. It's one of my favorite all time. So they are like, I mean, they're hitting on all cylinders. Like, this episode was gorgeous, and the animation, I think it took my breath away multiple times. Storytelling is really good. The plot building, the tense level, the way that they have their main character here, really kind of like, how do you say it? Like Yuya, the way, man, how do you explain it in a really good form? There is a very realistic way. There is a very realistic portrayal of how Yuya is acting that makes sense in context of the anime and in context of real life, that I just think they're doing such a good job portraying. And that is this one thing here. He was a fat boy who got skinny, right? And whether you've experienced that before or not, you know, I know myself, like, at some point I went from skinny to fat to back. Like, I get how that can be, but, you know, for somebody who maybe is going from fat to fit for the first time, and he went, and no mistaking, he went from fat to fit. Like, he didn't go from fat to, like, chubby. He went from fat to fit. So inside, in his inner self, right, he is self-loathing, and he hates himself, and he still has all the baggage of being this fat, unlikable, hated by everybody guy. And he's now having to, face the fact that the world is just going to look at him different based on how he looks now. And I think the anime is doing such a good job of portraying that. And he said it over and over again as he's trying to get accepted into this new school of, like, I don't think I'm worthy. I don't think that I am the person you're looking for to represent your school. Like, I wouldn't want to taint your school's name. Like, I wouldn't, all of this self-deprecating actions, and he's consistently changed. And I don't think that this specific narrative would have changed if he was still a fat boy, because of the heroism that he displayed by saving one of the Academy board members' daughters. I think that the graciousness that would have still been bestowed to him, regardless if he was still fat or not, you can't really change the heroism that he displayed. But the fact is that he now has a different appearance and demeanor to himself slightly, based on just him being a little bit different now, with him being fit instead of fat. And, his facial, just everything about him. And he's being constantly reminded in this episode that, a genius isn't described purely by intelligence. It can be by somebody who takes action. And his whole perception of what a genius was completely twisted based on this Academy board members, Academy directors, the person that he saved, her father. I just thought it was just such compelling, endearing. I know I'm all over the place too, but it was such compelling and endearing writing, and it just really pulled me into it. So, just great episode. I'm just smiles all across. But so the episode starts off where we left off last time, okay? And we find out, or I found out, that his sister and brother, the little pieces of crap that they are the ones who were making fun of him previously, okay? So we find that out. We then find out that the person who came to save him or get him is Kaori. I'm gonna go with my Ari Ferretta name saying here. We're gonna go with Kaori. She's in the student council of Osai Academy, and her father's on the board. She came here to reward him for saving her, and she wants him to now come to this academy. Later on in the episode, he calls her out on, how did you know it was me still? I obviously look very different. And she was like, it's your eyes. Like, your eyes, I know exactly who you are based on your eyes. And I was like, oh, what a moment, dude. Like, she's like, yo, your eyes have such honesty and purity behind them, like that. She made me blush, But anyway, so we find out that she's Kaori and she's on the student council, and her dad wants to, basically enroll him into the school. He's unsure, again, self-deprecating. I'm not who you want, you don't need to reward me. Again, all these actions based on who he was prior to these changes. Okay, then just that alone, amazing. Then they're like, okay, just come on a trial basis. He goes and experiences school, but he gets to experience school for the first time as being this fit, good-looking, model-esque looking dude, but in this very humble demeanor based on who he was before, which even gives him more conviction and gives him more, from like a stranger's point of view, it makes him more appealing. For him to have this, humbleness and not really realize that he's could walk on a model runway, right? So I think he exudes that more humble, kind of like, oh, I can't believe this. So people want to know that more. It makes him more appealing. So he's getting to experience the world in a perception and light that he's never, gotten to experience before. And I think what this anime nailed really well, and I took note of it too, is being, and this is a verbatim note that I took down. I put, being good looking can really have a way the world is and changes around you, and this anime is nailing that. And I think that is a very true statement, and I think the way that they're handling it is real. But the reality of our world is beautiful people get certain There are certain doors that get opened for beautiful people, more so than the normal-looking folks, like me, and even worse, the ugly folk, you know what I mean, or the hideous folk, or the ones who may have something that makes them non-beautiful in the generic eye. And I was like, wow, they're really nailing that, because it's just simply true. Is that that people who are generically beautiful, and I use that word generically because I mean, like, if you were to put them in a category, it's like generically beautiful. Like, you get these things that just simply open up to you, and then if you have a certain attitude and a certain intelligence, even more doors will open for you. So I was like, wow, they're really nailing that quite a bit. And I know I'm almost out of time. I've taken up so much time here already, but this episode was just absolutely incredible. He ends up loving his first day. He ends up making some interesting immediate acquaintances. He gets to see how others will treat him, and they're open. He gets to see a school where people care and get to have fun and get to have certain restrictions lifted because there's a trust back and forth, a school that he's never experienced before. And then he gets to experience a really, really cute first date with Kaori, and they get to experience something together, I think, for both of them for the first time, which was really cute. And then the episode ends with him taking that confidence he got from the real world and using it in the alternate world, and he goes and finally leaves his home for the first time and cuts a goblin in half and seemingly seems to save a noble potential princess or somebody who's high up. But wow, what episode number 2. Incredible. Loved it. I could talk for another 10 minutes about it. That's how good episode 2 was, that I even left a bunch of crap out. Let me know what you guys thought about episode number 2. And did it leave as much of an impression on me? Did it leave as much of an impression on you as it did me? I can speak. I promise. I try real hard. All right. I'm going to see you guys next week for episode 3. Peace.